We have a video called How We Ended Up in a Tiny House, Our Story. And in that video we talked about what happened during the crash of '08 and how we lost everything that we had. We had 4 houses and a business, and we lost all of that. Somebody about 6 months ago or so asked a question on that video. I'm sorry, I don't remember who it was that asked it, but the question was, where would you be if the crash of '08 had not happened?
We found that to be a very interesting question, actually. And we started doing some real thinking about it and realized a lot of different things that have been different because of that. And it turned out to be a pretty interesting question.
Tiny House Prepper. Hey everybody, I'm Bill.
And I'm Elizabeth with Tiny House Prepper.
And that is a very good question. Where
Yes.
would we be if the crash of '08 hadn't happened?
Yeah.
Before the crash happened, everything looked great.
Yeah, we look fine.
You know, we had a successful construction company that I was with, with my parents, and the business had been going for 30 years. It was well established.
Yep. I had been spending, I guess it had been at least 30 years that I had been teaching. I had a pretty successful teaching business. I had a studio, and I was earning about 40% of our income at that point, maybe about 40%. Yeah.
Right. And we were pretty much out of debt as far as all of our personal credit cards and things that we used to have. We did still have some business debt with suppliers for the materials for the construction business that I was running, but we were handling that debt fine. And we also had 4 houses. We had our home, and we had 3 other houses that were rental properties, and these were going to be our retirement.
Yeah, and if you looked at us on the surface with a pretty successful small construction business and owning actually 4 homes, it looked pretty good.
Yeah, it did. And so where would we expect to have been without the crash? Where would we have been down the road?
Right, I mean, it's been 10 years since the crash, so where were we expecting to be 10 years later?
Right. So we were expecting to have our home paid off.
Now, I loved what I was doing. I could have taught forever.
Right. Right.
But I didn't. It'd be nice to know I didn't have to, but I knew that was always going to be there for me.
Yeah. Now, she taught piano and voice, and this wasn't just a few, students that she had. How many students did you have at the height of it?
77.
77?
That I taught a half-hour to an hour lesson once a week.
Right, so it was pretty much a 40-hour-a-week job, plus recitals and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, all the preparation and everything, yeah. And most teachers put in a lot more hours than just them. Yeah.
And, she would be able to do that basically forever because she loved it, and, the typical old lady
absolutely.
teaching the piano and wrap you across your fingers with a ruler.
I would never do that.
No, of course not.
But even if my arthritis got really bad, I could still teach.
Right.
Absolutely.
No, she was a very good teacher, and her students all loved her.
Oh, and I loved it. Yeah. Oh my goodness, I loved it.
So she could teach forever, and then of course I had my construction company. I didn't know if I could do that forever, because the older you get, the harder it gets to climb a ladder with shingles over your shoulder.
80 pounds of shingles, yep.
Yeah. But we had debt on all of our houses, but we were working on accelerating the payments on our house to get it paid off. And then for all of our 3 other rental properties, the plan was that if in 10 or 15 years, now let me back up a little bit. When you own a rental property, you collect the rent, and the rent pays for the mortgage.
Yeah.
So theoretically, the house will completely pay for itself.
Yeah, technically it should pay for itself.
So the plan was that 10 or 15 years down the road, after these houses had been renting and paying for themselves and appreciating, that we would be able to sell one house and use the proceeds from that, because it's been paid down and it's been appreciating, and use the proceeds from that to be able to pay off the other 2 houses.
Right. And that's not even trying to go with super hyper inflated things on the houses. That was just equity building as it should.
Right.
And the value.
So the plan was I would work construction as long as I could, or as long as was necessary. She could work forever if she wanted to. We would sell one of our rental properties to pay off our other 2 rental properties, and that would be our retirement income. So we would have we would have rental income from 2 houses coming in, and we would have Social Security for both of us, and we would have my military retirement paycheck. Now, I didn't retire from the active duty Army. I retired from the National Guard, so I don't get as much as somebody who retires from 20 years of active duty. It wasn't anywhere near enough to live on, though it does obviously help a lot.
Right,
But
right.
that was just one of the streams of income that we would have from
Right.
retirement.
And see, he had 11 years of active duty and 13 of National Guard. And so there was going to be income coming in once he reached 60.
Right.
There'd be some pay from that.
Right.
Yep.
So everything looked good, and that's where we thought we were going to be. We thought we'd have the houses paid off and the income coming in from them and the retirement from the National Guard and the Social Security. Everything looked great.
Yep.
But the reality was,
Yeah. If we really look at it realistically,
it was all a house of cards.
yeah, it really was. We
You know?
can see that now.
All of the rental properties were fully mortgaged to the hilt, including our own house.
And we had pulled equity out of it sometimes when we
Yeah,
needed it.
you know, they all had 30-year mortgages, and they had anywhere from 23 or 24 years up to 27 years left on them. So, and in the meantime, because they all had mortgages, the rents coming in paid the mortgage, but there wasn't any extra cash flow at all. Maybe, you know, $50 a month in total
Yeah.
extra cash flow from these three houses. And we didn't have enough savings. We had a few $1,000s, but we didn't have anywhere near enough savings to take care of vacancies and to take care of repairs.
Yeah.
And if a house went vacant for a month, we couldn't pay the mortgage. If the house went vacant for 2 months, because it took us a while to get somebody in there, we could be in trouble because we would be 2 months behind on the mortgage. We couldn't pay the mortgage unless the rents were coming in.
That's right. And it would deplete savings very quickly, or a major repair could also have been catastrophic.
Right, right. So it all looked good, but in reality, we were just barely hanging on with our rental income, and they weren't paying us any cash flow until they were paid off, which would be 25 years down the road. We'd be somewhere in our mid-70s before we would start getting any any retirement income from that.
Right. That'd take it that long to
And-
really pay them off.
She could work until she was 75 teaching piano. Construction, me at 75, no
It's
way.
way too difficult of work.
I'm 60. How old am I? Again?
You're 61.
61. I'm 61 right now, and if I go up a ladder with a half a bundle of shingles on my shoulder, I'm done for the day.
It's just really hard work.
Yeah, those
It
of
was
you who
for
are in
years.
construction know what I'm talking about. When you're 25 or 30, it's no big deal, but when you're 60 or 70, get another job.
It gets rough. It
Yeah.
really does.
So,
You know, if we tried to sell them then to try to pay off something, that was being very dependent, more than we realized, on good appreciation on those houses,
Right.
which we realize now is not guaranteed. You know, it would take some serious appreciation for us to be in a position to, you know, be able to sell one somewhere down the road there to pay off others.
right. So, and also, we realize now that we would not have had our own home paid off.
Yeah.
We were working on accelerating the payments, but, you know, things always come up.
Yeah, you don't do it
And-
every time because there's always something important that comes along.
Right, car
You
repair
know,
or something like that.
right.
So it wouldn't necessarily have worked the way we had planned. But
We were also living basically paycheck to paycheck as much as you can with the construction company, and we weren't super extravagant. We were making it just fine, but there wasn't a bunch extra.
and now, when we look back on it, we know that a couple years after, well, it was, what, 4 years after, in 2012.
Yeah, 2008 is when the crash happened financially,
Yeah.
and 2012 is when our next crash happened.
Yeah, our next crash, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Her stroke.
Yeah.
After her stroke in 2012, she is not able to work anymore. She could still play the piano as beautiful as she ever could, and you've heard some of that, but she used to be able to play all day teaching lessons. Now she plays for 15, 20 minutes, and her hand stops working because her brain gets so tired she can't play anymore. So there's no way she would be able to continue that.
I tried. Once I recovered enough, I tried to just do 5 lessons. Now you have to understand, I used to do 16 to 20 in a day, in a stretch.
Yeah.
I was a happy workaholic. I tried to do 5, spreading out over the course of the day. By the 5th lesson, my hand was no longer working at all. I couldn't track on the music. It took me a long time to admit it, but everything I thought of to try to be working full time was not working, and I tried.
So we ended up losing her job, which was fully 40% of our income.
Yeah.
Now, if the crash had not happened and we were still going along the way we were before, losing that income would mean that we would never be able to accelerate the payments on our own home. So we would be paying for that until we were 75. And in fact, there's a good chance that we wouldn't have been able to make the standard mortgage payments, and we would have lost the house anyway.
Just from losing that major chunk of our income.
Right.
Yes.
So then we didn't have her income. Eventually she got disability, but that took a couple years, and that's only a fraction.
It's a fraction. My disability is a fraction of what I earned.
Of what she used to earn.
Yeah.
So, which means that I would be locked into that construction job until I die. That's not
goodness.
something that I was looking forward to. What we discovered was that debt, any debt, if you have the income to maintain it, it's okay until there's the slightest little blip in your income stream, and all of a sudden that debt becomes a complete and total millstone around your neck. It'll sink you. It'll drag you down. It'll kill you.
And a big blip on the screen can cause major problems.
So
this is what we would probably have been looking at if the crash had not happened.
right,
You know,
right.
so
But the crash did happen.
yes.
And because of that, we lost my construction business, which, like I said, was well established for 30 years, and we lost 60% of our income. And because of that, we couldn't pay anything, you know.
Right.
And we were actually, after talking to a lawyer, we were forced into bankruptcy. And this is what I was saying, that debt can become a millstone around your neck, because we were doing okay as long as we had income, but when I lost my job, you have no other choice. You have to file bankruptcy. And we hated to do it. We hated to do it, but we had no choice, because we just simply didn't have the money to pay without any kind of income.
And you haven't done paperwork until
Yeah.
God.
So what actually happened then in the crash? Well, I lost my construction business.
The whole family did.
In '07, yeah, and my parents too. In '07, we had built 9 houses.
Yep.
And in '08, over the winter of '07 and '08, we had 3 or 4 people already that wanted us to build houses.
Oh yeah, we had the next summer and spring pretty lined up.
But the banks stopped lending. Nobody could get a mortgage. And
So we got phone call after phone call. I'm so sorry, but we cannot get our mortgage. We can't get the loan
yep.
anymore.
So in '07 we did 9 houses. In '08 we did 0.
Yeah.
Nobody had any construction money
No, they couldn't get a loan.
And at the same time, Elizabeth could still continue teaching, but we had a dip in her income as well because of the
The whole whole northeast area
people
economy.
didn't have discretionary income to spend on piano lessons for their kids anymore, so she lost a good portion of her income as well.
The second part that happened, there's 3 parts to this financial catastrophe. One was losing the business. The second part was that all of our renters lost their jobs.
Yep.
All of them. And we could not pay the mortgages when we didn't have anybody in the house. And that swiftly depleted anything that we had trying to save those
Right, all the
houses.
savings that we had, we went through that in a month or two.
Because we kept trying to save stuff.
Trying to pay the mortgages, and
Yeah.
once that was gone, there's nothing we could do because we depended on the mortgages,
Right.
on the rentals to pay for the mortgage. So
And then, yeah.
why didn't we just put new renters in there?
Well, this is part 3
Yeah.
of the catastrophe, of course.
So the houses all flipped upside down, which
Yeah.
means 2 things. One is the value dropped so drastically that the value of the house was less than what was owed on it. So we couldn't sell them. In fact, the one house appraised at about $240,000. We owed about $175,000 on it, and we could not. We put it on the market for $130,000.
30? Something like that, yeah.
And we didn't even get anybody looking at it. We finally, after almost a year, finally sold it at a short sale for $70,000. When we owed $175,000 and it had appraised at $240,000, we sold it for $70,000.
And see, we thought we had tons of equity in that
So
house.
that shows you how badly everything flipped upside down. And then also the rents all dropped in the area. So if we tried to put new renters in there, it would have rented for less than what the mortgage was, and we still wouldn't have been able to make the mortgage
We would have been
payments.
so deficient in the rental money, we could not have made the mortgage payment.
So the bottom line is that we ended up losing all 3 of our rental properties, and then eventually we lost our own home
Yeah,
as well.
we couldn't
Yeah.
keep up with our own mortgage.
And then of course we were forced to file bankruptcy. I already talked about that, but
Well, and people have asked us, well, when things got better, which I'm not sure they've ever completely gotten better, but when things got better, why didn't you just start the business back up again? You have to realize the amazing amount of expense there is in getting something like that back on its
well,
feet
and
again.
it the economy didn't get better enough to do that for probably 5 years.
Right, and I'm still not sure it's totally better.
Yeah, I could probably do it now if I wanted to, but I don't want anything to do with construction at this point. But it would have been many years before we could have done that.
Right.
So that's what happened. That's how we lost everything, and we lost all 5 houses. We lost our construction business, and so where are we now? This is the cool part.
This is the cool part,
Yeah.
and it took a while for the dust to settle.
Yeah.
You know, it took some time.
Years.
Years, yes.
Long, arduous years.
Years, yes, yes. But where are we now? Okay, this is, it gets good.
So when you are about to lose a house to foreclosure, if you can come up with someone who will buy it on a short sale, that means that they buy it for less than what you owe on it. The bank has to approve it, but if you can find a short sale buyer, many times the bank will actually pay you as the seller because you save them money because they don't have to go through the foreclosure.
Right. And the bank we were working with had a window of time where they would help you because you went through all the hassle of doing a
Right.
short sale. They would pay you a little bit to do that.
So the house that we were just talking about that we sold for $70,000 when we owed $175,
Yeah.
they actually paid us for the short sale, and we were flabbergasted because they paid us $10,000 for that.
Totally out of the blue. We had
Yeah.
no clue. I mean, it was amazing.
Now, we knew that we were going to be losing our home soon, and we knew that we were going to be basically homeless, and at that point we didn't really have enough money yet to even rent or buy something else, so we didn't know what
Goodness
we were going to
no. We had like no money except for that 10,000.
do. Right. So we took that $10,000 and we looked around, and she actually found this place
Yep.
that we're living in now. And so that was what we needed to be able to buy the land, and the trailer that was on it was this old, dilapidated, disgusting thing that should have been torn down, and that's why we didn't pay any extra for the trailer, we just bought the land.
Yeah, the trailer was a detriment, not an asset.
Right. In fact, the trailer may have even dropped the price on the land a little bit
yeah.
because we were going to have to tear it out of here. But then after we bought it, I started looking around, and I thought, you know, I'm a contractor. This is what I do. I can renovate this place.
Right. And it was way too expensive for us to tear it down and put something else on it.
Right.
You know.
Right. So we decided to renovate it, but then we didn't have the money to do that either.
Right. Everything's cash. You
Yep.
have to understand it. Whenever we scrape money together. Now, we do have to say that by this point, Bill was driving the truck. He'd lost work for a long time.
Right.
But he was driving the truck.
Right.
And I was on disability. So that's where we were at, you know, as far as income.
Yeah. So then one of this was on our house when we finally lost our house.
Yeah, when we finally lost our own house.
We were able to get what the bank calls cash for keys because it was a foreclosure, but we left it in perfect shape. We didn't go in and
Yeah, I left it clean and everything was in completely perfect order.
we didn't go in and knock holes in the wall and all that kind of stuff.
We didn't take anything
like
from
a
the
lot
house.
of people do when they get foreclosed on. So because of that, the bank gave us cash for keys in the maximum amount, which once again we were overwhelmed.
It was, thank God.
And they
It was
paid us
amazing.
$3,400 in cash for keys, and that was what we needed to be able to go in and finish the renovation. I had started it, but we were out of money. So
Right.
we were able then to go in and redo the kitchen, redo parts of the bathroom, replace and put all new appliances in the kitchen.
Well, it just, you know, taking care of the more expensive things.
Right.
We hung on to the stove, but we pretty much had to replace everything else.
Right.
We didn't even have a hot water heater. So there was, lots to do in there.
And all of this was very traumatic at the time.
Oh, my goodness.
It was
and busy.
It was very stressful. It took several years for this whole process to take place, and we were just feeling weighed down and feeling the stress of all of this all the time.
Yeah.
But now we know, as we look back on it,
Yes.
that we are actually better off now than we were before the crash when we had all those rental properties and all that kind
Yeah,
of
when
stuff.
everything looked like we were just very successful and doing great. Yep.
And it all, you know, we live in this tiny place. It's 250 square feet, and we moved in because we had no other choice.
Right.
At the point.
I was grateful to have a roof over my head.
Right.
Yeah.
But now we've been here 3 years, just
Yep.
over 3 years,
3 years last April.
and we can say that we are very comfortable living tiny.
Yes.
We are very comfortable living with less. It's less stuff to manage. It's less stuff to clean. It's less stuff to trip over. We're just comfortable with less stuff.
Yeah.
And it is also much less financial stress
Yeah.
because we are now completely debt free because of our cheap living here.
Yeah, a lot of that at this point is because this whole circumstance we did a complete paradigm shift.
Right.
It just really was a lesson for us.
As far as the use of debt.
As far as the use of debt.
Yeah.
So not only did we were kind of, with the bankruptcy, of course, forced some debt freedom with that, but very easy to go back into it again. Believe me, as soon as you finish a bankruptcy, credit card companies are offering you credit cards.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Immediately.
Yeah.
But we have made the decision not to use debt for anything. And so that this whole thing has brought about a complete change in how we think. So we are actually debt-free.
So we have not used any debt, any credit at all, since the crash of '08.
Of 2008, yes.
So it's been 10 years now of completely not using any credit.
Right.
Can we live in this world, in this modern world of credit? Can you live without it, using it?
We have been told so many times that now you've got to have a credit card for certain situations, and you're really going to need it. If you want to go get a new phone service, or if you want to rent a car. And of course, we use debit cards just for the convenience of it, but that's just directly from any money we have in the bank.
Right.
We have never, in all of these 10 years, and we have flown places, we've rented cars.
Using debit cards.
Yes. Well, yes. We have. What I was going to say is we've flown places. We have done all sorts of things that normally have to do, and never, ever has it been necessary for us to have a credit card. And right now, we don't have bad credit. We have no credit. That's
and
what
you
would
what?
see.
We don't care.
Anyway, yeah, I don't care about our credit report at all.
Because we're never going to use credit again, so why should we care?
Right, and then that means we do budget our money carefully, and we are able, we do save toward things that are going to come up. So we've talked about that in other videos, but we not only have ended up debt-free and forced in some ways, but we have chosen to absolutely remain that way. And
Right.
that has made a huge difference.
And because we are debt-free, we also have less expenses, less living expenses, no debt.
Right.
That's one of the reasons that I was able to quit my driving job and to come home now.
Yes.
Because we have less expense to cover on a monthly basis.
Yes.
And also because Thrive and YouTube have really done well for us.
Yeah, I mean, once that really started growing and everything, that has ended up being a really amazing blessing for us.
But if we were paying $1,200 for a mortgage and
a car payments,
$300 or $400 for each car payment and some credit card payments, there's no way that I would have been able to come home.
Oh goodness, no.
I would still be driving that truck.
Absolutely. It's not just a matter of being debt free, although that's wonderful, but it's a matter of also keeping our expenses low. There's lost my train of thought. Go ahead.
Should I take over?
You.
Okay, I'm going to take over. We have a lot more discretionary income now because we're not paying a mortgage. We're not paying credit cards. We're not paying
Right.
Car payments.
And the money that we are going to need for something has been carefully saved.
Right.
For periodic bills and stuff.
So that means, we can save all of that money that we are spending, that we used to spend on mortgage payments and all those things, and that's all discretionary income for us now. So we can save it until we can do what we want with it. So just within the past 6 months or so, we've been able to buy several vehicles. If you watch that debacle with my truck that I had to put a new engine in and then bought another truck, we also bought that little car at the same time, and then a few months earlier, we bought the cottage.
The cottage, yeah.
We did all of that cash, and why were we able to do that? Because we're making millions?
No.
Because
No.
we don't pay a mortgage, and because we don't pay credit cards. We were able to take that money that everyone else is spending on debt and use it for play money instead.
Well, I mean, you need vehicles,
Yeah.
and we do save money every single month toward vehicle expenses.
Right.
But
we still make a car payment.
Yes.
Just that instead of paying the bank on the loan that we owe, we make a car payment into our own savings account every month, so that we were saving ahead for car repairs and for car replacement eventually.
And so, getting that little car was a necessity. Bill's dad needed a vehicle. We let him have our van. I'm glad. That was great. The little car was a necessity. The truck and the cottage is something that we enjoy tremendously, and I cannot tell you how grateful I am that by being careful with the money we do have and not having to pay toward a bunch of other stuff and pay interest on things, we're able to save and get those, and they're paid for. And also when things are paid for out of cash, all sorts of things happen. You don't have to pay as expensive of insurance. And also, you know, we were able to get better deals, honestly, on these vehicles because we had the cash in hand.
Right.
And that's been nice, you know.
Right. So, you know, from time to time someone comes on the channel and says, why don't you just buy a real house? Buy a real house. You know,
or build yourself something bigger and better. Yeah.
We are Tiny House Prepper. We are about tiny living.
Yeah.
And these people, for the most part, don't understand the whole tiny house mentality. But what we are talking about now is the benefits of tiny living, because the costs of living are so much less that it's a matter of priority. Would you rather spend your money on a big house and then you can't do anything, or would you rather have money to be able to buy an RV and travel the country because you don't have a big house payment? It's all a matter of priorities. If you want to have a big house, go for it, by all means. But this is the benefit that we have seen, and we are now finally realizing, of living tiny, is that it costs a lot less to get in the first place.
Yes.
You can buy a tiny house or a used travel trailer or something like that, considerably less than a house.
And we're not just, go ahead.
We don't necessarily, we're not talking about minimalist living. For some people, downsizing might mean selling their 2,800 square foot house and buying an 800 square foot 3-bedroom ranch. You know, if it works for you, then do it. You don't have to necessarily live in 250 square feet like we do.
And with a family, I mean, there's all sorts of different things where people have needs. You know,
but if you have a big house with a mortgage on it, you might have enough equity in it to be able to sell it and buy a smaller house free and clear with no mortgage. That's the way to go.
So yeah, there's just, when we're talking about living tiny, it can be so many different things. It's not just a cute little house built on a trailer. There's so many different ways that people can just simplify their expenses and their living, and it costs less to get into it. And even if a person does do a mortgage, you've got a much smaller one that you got a better chance of getting paid off.
Paying off faster.
Paying off faster. And I tell you what, if we had paid our house off, and I loved that house, if we had paid our house off that we were living in, we still would have had, I think it was $5,000 a year in taxes. There's still, your taxes, your insurance, sometimes dues, things like that are more.
And repairs, much more repairs.
Repairs are more expensive. Yeah. You are also susceptible to tax increases more so. Everything costs more to maintain, so that just has to be something a person figures in even when their home is paid off. So we have discovered for us that living in a really small place, which we had not started out intending to do, it is less to maintain. You know, and I'm not talking about how much easier it is to clean. I'm talking about, you know, maintaining the cost of repairing things, replacing things. Even compared to a house that we've paid off, because it's smaller. So the taxes are less, repairs are less, utilities are less. You know, we've said in a previous video before that life doesn't consist of things. It consists of experiences and relationships. And that's one of the things that we are enjoying so much with having that little cottage and just having a chance to do our first little trip in it, is I'm happy to live in a small place and to be able to experience more and get out there. And, you know, it's like I've said before, I think that those beautiful houses like they have in Cape May, Victorian houses, I think they're gorgeous. They're so beautiful, wraparound porches. So my feeling now is I can look at them, I can enjoy them and appreciate them, and then I go home to my simple little house. I'm not having to clean it, paint it, pay the expenses on it. I can enjoy it and then go home to my own little simple house. So, you know.
And, you know, there's another thing here, too, because...
This is significant.
It is significant. It's changed our lives completely, because if the crash hadn't happened, I'd still be working construction till I was 75 and we got that house paid off.
Yeah, if we made it without me...
but because of the crash, because I lost my job and all that stuff, we lost all the houses, we bought this old ratty trailer, I ended up having to renovate it.
Yeah, we did all cash. It was
I had some Facebook friends that lived across the country that wanted to see what I was doing, so I made a video of the renovation and put it on YouTube just for them. So a couple of my friends could see what I was doing. All of a sudden, bam, a couple of years later, because of that one renovation video, a couple of years later, I got 35,000 subscribers.
We never expected anything like that in a million years. We would not have been involved with doing the YouTube channel if this hadn't happened. And you know what? Not only has this turned out to be such a blessing for us, you know, with the way things have happened with YouTube and especially with Thrive Life, to help so Bill can be home and to help us financially. But we love the community we've become a part of. We love everybody's
The YouTube community.
The YouTube community.
Yeah.
The just the people that have been so sweet and reaching out and just being a part of your lives. It's been really a rich experience for us. It's a lot of busy work sometimes, but it's neat, you know. So it's been a blessing for us in ways that aren't even just financial, you know.
So before the crash, I would have been working forever in construction. Now, after the crash and because of the renovations that we had to go through, we have this YouTube channel and the Thrive business with the YouTube that has allowed me to come home, and I'm still working.
Oh, yeah.
We spend 20 to 30 hours a week now making videos. But the point is, I'm not crawling up onto a hot roof. I make my own hours. If I don't feel like making a video today and I want to go swimming in the river instead, I can do that. Except it's too cold.
Yeah, take me to the river.
But that has
he can take me to appointments, and
that has totally changed our lives because my job, my income now has completely changed.
Yeah, yeah. So are we better off? Yes.
Absolutely,
yes, we absolutely are.
We never would have believed it when we were going through it.
Oh.
But we are absolutely better off.
Yeah. On the other side of things.
Yeah.
We really are grateful for the way this has all turned out. I've said this before, but there's a country song that I love. I'm paraphrasing the chorus, but it says, "I thank God for the crooked road that led me straight to you." And did God have a hand in all this?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We don't always know what path we're going to have to take in our life to end up where we're going to end up. And this was some really rough years, but I really do thank God for where we are now and a lot of things that has meant in our lives. Some chances to be with family more than we ever really would have had otherwise, and to some extent freedom that I don't think we ever would have been experiencing, that we do have now that we wouldn't necessarily have had. So yep, it would have been very different if the crash hadn't happened.
Yep. And we are better off now that we're through it. I'm glad it happened.
Yeah, now that we're through it.
Yep.
Absolutely. So, yeah, it was really interesting for us to take a look at this and think about it.
Right. And so thank you to whoever asked that question.
Yeah, we
because
appreciate
it was the catalyst for us to really look at our lives and look at where we were and where we're at and discover that, praise God, we're better off now than we were before the crash happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, something that has looked like it was a terrible tragedy, and it was at the time, has turned into an incredible blessing.
Right.
Yeah.
I can even thank God for where we are and all that's happened, even with having had the stroke. God doesn't cause any bad things to happen. He doesn't. But He sure can work in your life. And
Even through the bad things.
Even through the bad things.
Yeah.
And honestly, I worked a lot, and I've had time with grandchildren, time with all sorts of things that would have been really difficult to have. And so I don't know. Ultimately, I thank God for the crooked road that led us where we are now.
Right.
It's in God's hands. Yep. Alrighty.
So there it is.
Yeah.
There's our story.
Yeah, we tried to answer that question as best we could. So
I think this has been a little bit long. I'm not sure. We'll take a look at that, but
yeah, we'll edit out a lot of boo-boos.
but thank you much. If you made it this far, thank you for sticking with us.
Yes.
I hope you've enjoyed hearing how the things that we went through and how blessed we are now that we're through it all, and
Yeah. Yeah.
God's been walking with us, and it's
Yeah.
been a journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Alrighty. Well, listen, love you guys, and thank you for your comments, very much so. And we'll see you soon.
Okay? You be blessed.